Just a tad there. All right, hello everybody. Um, welcome to the Mikestand. Of course, gonna give it a few minutes to give people a chance to come in. So I'll put some music on while we wait a little bit. Wait for some more people to come in, and I'll get going on what's on tap for tonight. Let me put some music on, and then I'm gonna go take care of something real quick, and then we will. Hello everybody. So we're just waiting for people to show up. So mass crusaders working overtime, fighting crime, secret raiders who will make light to the pain arise. Night Tracker's gonna lead the mission. Spectrum's got such super vision. Mass is a mighty power that can save the day. Mask. No one knows the lie behind the masquerade. Mask, always riding on Venom's trail, and do a laser race on his way. Conan, the adventurer. Conan, man of bravery. He's more powerful than any man. Spread his legend across land and sea. Conan, the mightiest warrior. His quest to undo the evil cast upon his belly and drive the evil serpent men back into another dimension and defeat the evil and cruel wizard Rathamon. Conan, the adventurer. Conan, man of bravery. He's more powerful than any man who spread legend across land and sea. Feel the power, Conan. Zoobily zoo, zoobily zoo. Magic and wonder are waiting for you. Oh, come on now, my boy. It's a new zoo review coming right at you. It's a new zoo review coming right at you. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. When Charlie and Freddie Joe, every day's a different show. It's a new zoo review coming right at you. It's a new zoo review coming right at you. Lassie and the Rescue Rangers. Lassie and the Rescue Rangers. Anyways. All right, so we've hit the 8. We're coming up on 8 minutes here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started here then a bit. Where? Anyways, we're going to get started here a bit and talk about what's on tap for tonight. So, let me go ahead and share that, pull that up. So, what's on tap for tonight? Let's see. Well, we got 4 articles we're going to probably be reading from Bounding into Comics. Among those include the season 2 trailer, a new season 2 trailer for Tokyo Revengers is out. Looking at that. Chuck Dixon talks about, explains how being blacklisted from mainstream affects his friendships. Let's see. We got some news on the HBO Max live action Green Lantern series. And this has kind of been an ongoing story too over the last few weeks here. As well as Cartoon Network is merging operations with Warner Brothers Animation as part of a strategic realignment. I'm guessing that has a lot to do with David Zaslav going in and changing things up a bit. So those are the 4 main stories we're going to be looking at tonight. Of course, we do have the Wrestling Roundup and listing each history segments as well. I'll be getting into those soon enough. Without any further ado, why don't we go ahead and get started then? Start off with this first story here on the night. Let's see. Tokyo Revengers, in smaller quotes, Season 2 gets new trailer introducing the Chiba family and the truth and the 10th generation Black Dragons. Article by Nerdigans Inc., published back on November 7th, which is this past Monday. So, at the titular holiday, as the titular holiday approaches and people prepare to celebrate, Tokyo Revengers has rung in the festive season by dropping a new trailer for its upcoming adaptation of the series' Christmas Showdown arc. Now, okay. Debuted by Raiden Films during a special Halloween live stream, the latest trailer for the second season of their animated take on Ken Wakui's best-selling manga focuses on the newly revived Black Dragon, as well as the relationship between the Shiba family and the Tokyo Majin Gang's second division captain Takashi Mitsuya. The trailer kicks off with Hanagaki Takamichi, Hanagaki Takamichi's, who's voiced in Japan by Yuki Shin, who also voiced Hibiki Okawa in Blue Lock. First encounter with the intimidating Black Dragon boss, an eldest Shiba family sibling, Taiju Shiba, voiced in Japanese by Tomokazu Sugita, who also provides the voice for Kensei Muguruma in Bleach Thousand Year Blood War arc. Next up are Tomari's second division vice captain, Hakai Shiba, who's voiced in Japan by Tatsuku Hatanaka, who voices Denki Kaminari in My Hero Academia, and Captain Takashi Mitsuya, who is voiced by Yoshisugu Matsuoka, who you'll find provides a voice in Japanese, anyways, for Vasta Stampede in Trigun Stampede. The former of whom finds a replacement for his abusive biological brother Taiju in the latter. I guess those are the characters right there. Growing up, Taiju always resorted to violence as the first solution to his problems. Regardless of age, gender, or his own relationship with them, he would beat the ever-living daylights out of anyone he saw fit. Finding himself on the receiving end of more than his fair share of Taiju's abuse, Hakai eventually comes to believe that this is what love is: violent and physically painful. Finding himself caught in a cycle of abuse, but also seeking to end it, Hakai vows to only use violence to protect his sister, Yuza Hashiba, who in the Japanese is voiced by Mikako Komatsu, who provides the voice of Rebecca Blueguard in Eden Zero from Taiju. However, Hakai has convinced himself that the only way he can accomplish this goal is by killing his older brother, and he's already prepared to accept the consequences. All right, so let's see now. Let's see if anybody's joined us yet. It's me and my shadow. Alrighty then. So here we go. From there, the trailer brings us face to face with the 10th incarnation of the Black Dragon delinquent group, led by their abusive absolute ruler, Kaiju. The revived 10th generation of the Black Dragons has gained a reputation for being the most maniacal and evil generation of the game since its inception. Under Taiju, the revived dragons have had a complete makeover, now sporting new uniforms and training their members to act more like an army rather than a disorganized group of thugs. All in the single file line, like army men. Find out the one reason why a woman ain't a man. Turning to the Black Dragon members themselves, the trailer then finds Elite Guard Captain Hajime Kokonoe, character voice not the Anai, the person doing the voice for Hajime Kokonoe is Natsuki Anai, who provides the voice of Yorha Nine Go Esgata in Near Automata version 1.1a. Declaring that Kaiju has given him orders to kill any gang members who happen to come swaggering into their territory, even if Kaiju considers them a friend. Oh, probably not a good thing to do. Oh, right, there's about overkill. Next up is Attack Squad Captain Keishu Inuki Inui, who is voiced in Japanese by Junya Inoki, um, who also provides a voice for Yuji Itadori in Jujutsu Kaisen, who is shown responding to an insult made by Hakai to Taiju by pulling a knife on the boss's younger brother. Wow. After a further preview of Taiju's abusive behavior and his family's reaction to it, the trailer closes out with a new key visual featuring Inupi, Koko, Mitsuya, the Shiba family standing in front of a church altar. Wow, look at that. Look at that, huh? Interesting look there. Following a brief cut, the trailer drops a post-credit sneak peek at an upcoming flashback to when Hina Tachibana, voiced in the Japanese by Azumi Waki, who also does Tiger Zero in Shangri-La Frontier, fell in love with her childhood hero, Takamichi. There she is right there, I guess. The Christmas Showdown begins when Tokyo Revenger's second season debuts in January. So just after Christmas, then. Of course, that's usually when, January is usually the winter season for animes opening. So it's like January for winter, April for spring, July for the summer releases, and then October for the fall releases. So it's usually in the middle of these seasons that they usually release. So anyway, okay, so that's all for that article. I'm gonna need to step away for a moment. So let's set up for the next article here. We will in a moment here. I'll be right back. And I'm back. So our next article here, of course, is going to be focusing in on Chuck Dixon. Let me get to that. Former DC writer Chuck Dixon explains how being blacklisted from mainstream affects his friendship. A former DC writer. Okay, so we've read that part. Article by J.D. Augustine published yesterday. Um, the comic book. Um, all right, so Batman scribe and Bane creator Chuck Dixon finds himself on the outside looking in these days. Despite his many years and contributions to DC and mainstream comics, but he has a balanced viewpoint, regardless of being blacklisted, quote unquote, an industry he pioneered in his generation. Hmm. Well, even if he's blacklisted from mainstream comics, I know he's still doing independent stuff, like the arc tunes and all that. You know, the classic war story, presents classic war stories. Asked about being ostracized by the Big Two over his political views on an episode of the YouTube series Ask Chuck Dixon, and if he's still in contact with anyone he used to work with, he answered that he'd do lunch with anyone, whether they are a classic liberal, quote unquote, or a bomb throwing communist, quote unquote. Dixon used Eclipse Comics founder and editor Dean Mullaney as an example of somebody he would still talk to or break bread with, though he doesn't think of Mullaney as a communist per se. Quote, he's certainly far on the other side of the political spectrum, and I am, but we like each other, quote unquote. Dixon said. As we continue on here, quote, I would never stop being anybody's friend based on their ideology, unquote. He added, quote, unless you know they got really ugly and started talking about setting fire to orphanages, unquote, Dixon would, quote, draw the line there, unquote. But views based, but views basing friendships on political policy or identification as oh, but views basing friendships on political policy or identification as quote unquote very weird. Hmm. Quote, that said, unquote, um, he continued, he knows he's all kinds of quote unquote listed in the industry, but it's not entirely for political reasons. Quote, comics have always had a cliquish nature to them, unquote, he explained. And some people didn't want him around anymore. So this goes even beyond his political views. It's just he just having to do with him personally. But anyway, Dixon though rejects the notion he is a victim or canceled. Quote, because I refuse to be canceled, and part of that is because I refuse to apologize, unquote. Since he did nothing but speak his mind and openly express his conservative opinions, which is not wrong. Mm-hmm. Oh, that shot is from Bane's first appearance in Batman the animated series. That's him actually on a plane going to see Rupert Thorne. Furthermore, he says you can only be canceled if you give in to the mob and apologize, which is the prevailing wisdom of those on Dixon's side and in the Comicsgate community. Quote, anybody offended just loves getting offended, and they must be a lot of fun at Thanksgiving dinner, unquote, Dixon said. As we know, the left doesn't like to leave people alone, whereas the right will, quote, as long as you don't go after kids or destroy any property, unquote, the latter is okay, more with letting freak flags fly, said Dixon. But the left will destroy you if you don't celebrate or loathe the things they did. Digging deeper, he reveals that there are a lot of closet conservatives and apolitical people who work in comics because, surprise, they like to draw or write or create and want to work in peace. They disagree with coworkers on policy and still go over to their houses for dinner on occasion. Anyways, we continue on with the article here. To illustrate this point, Dixon discussed an aspect of his time working at Cross-Gen Comics. On an average day, certain people's heads would be buried in headphones, listening to Rush Limbaugh while they worked. These Cross-Gen employees were private about their El Rushbo fandom, thinking and scared they'd be fired by their boss and the company founder, Mark Alessi. They were under the impression that the late businessman was a, quote, screaming liberal, unquote, but Dixon laughed off the perception of Alessi and the reputation that it inspired. And I got to step away from the camera for a moment because my dog is barking, so I need to go tend to her. I will be right back, but while I'm gone, I'll put some music on for you guys. am back. So let's go ahead and continue this. Anyways, he found out years later from socializing with Alessi, quote, that he was anything but, unquote, and probably listened to Rush as well. Still, the paranoia would persist, and it does everywhere in the industry because of quote unquote job security. It's been observed. Let's see. Many people go along to keep their job and will virtue signal to remain relevant. Too bad that some Dixon knew to be apolitical became bomb throwing quote unquote pinkos on social media to be or seem quote down with the struggle unquote. However, when he talks to them, he can tell they're not, and that the politics were quote unquote learned. He also adds they don't want to be singled out and so quote unquote march along in a low and a fear Dixon could never stoop to. For one, he speaks his mind and has done so for years. Doing a 180 to fit in after all these years would never work, barring a stroke or brain trauma that might cause him to vote for Biden. Oh boy. Oh, that look on Biden's face looked like he's about to have a stroke. Oh boy. Ah. Addiction can be friends with people like that in today's social climate is he tries to understand where they come from. The people that I remain quote, people I remain friends with that I don't agree with, unquote, he says, quote, I understand perfectly why they feel the way they feel, and I hope they feel the same for me, unquote. All right, so anyways, there's that one. We'll get ready to move on to the next article here. $41. All right. Anyways, I need to step away again for a moment, so I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Let's get ready to hit the next article here. All right, with this, there's an animated version of so HBO Max live action quote Green Lantern series loses head writer Seth Graham Smith, shifts focus to John Stewart. Article by J.D. Augustine, published November 8th, which of course was yesterday. Right. The live action Green Lantern series being developed for HBO Max is still happening, but there is a significant update about its future. It won't be taking the form it was originally pitched under, highlighting members of the Corps, and lost its head writer. Here's some panels from one the Green Lantern Volume 1, Number 2, Darkness Visible, 2019. DC writing words by Grant Morrison. DC Comics, see art by Liam Sharp, and well, so the Green Lantern, I guess, is the name of that title. Right. Per the Hollywood Reporter, Seth Graham Smith departed the project after completing 8 scripts for the season that is no longer coming to pass, which likely means they won't be used. Graham Smith signed on to showrun Green Lantern a year after it was announced in 2019. Since then, there hasn't been much information about the series' progress, except it was still in the cosmic pipeline, and there may have been costumes fitted and made. Yeah, I mean, basically, there's a lot of like choppiness in the information coming out with it. So, all right, a detailed storyline was not known, but rumors indicated there were going to be two separate timelines, one taking place in space and another on Earth. Lanterns alleged to appear range from Sinestro to Jessica Cruz to Simon Baz. Um, of the ring slingers confirmed, uh, Ratchet star Finn Ritrock was cast as Guy Gardner, and Treadstone's Jeremy Irvine was set for the retconned and openly gay role of Alan Scott. Both of these characters to focus would have been a series focused alongside a rumored main character supposedly named Bree Jarda, a human woman of color who grew up on another planet. And this scene's from Green Lantern Emerald Knight 2011 Warner Animation. Irvine wasn't so sure the show was moving forward. Quote, as far as I know, there is not a firm start date yet, unquote, he told Metro UK earlier this year. But it's true. I mean, we did a story on this a few weeks ago where they were still kind of tinkering with the series. It was pretty obviously they obviously were trying to tinker with the series and stuff like that. And this, of course, this today wasn't the first time we heard the idea of them deciding to focus on John Stewart, the black Green Lantern, the African American Green Lantern. Graham Smith, however, remained optimistic when he told Collider that the show's scope was gigantic, quote unquote. He explained it was, quote, it has taken quite a bit of time to get to this point, and it's just a big undertaking. It's going really well. All I can say is that it's going really well. And there are going to be Green Lanterns in it, and it's going to be on HBO Max, unquote. And here's another scene, this one from Green Lantern First Flight back in 2009. He was vague in putting on a happy face, it turns out, and apparently couldn't handle the constant regime change at Warner Brothers' multiple bureaus, HBO and DC. Walter Hamada, leaving the latter's film division, may have been the final nail in the coffin of Graham Smith and producer Greg Berlanti's vision, but it's not the last word on the series as a whole. Here's Jon Stewart's animated appearance in Beware My Power trailer. The Hollywood Reporter says the project will shift gears and turn into a series centered around Jon Stewart, who previously was either off limits due to his part in the Snyderverse or appearing later beside Hal Jordan as the series got going, according to conflicting reports. Now it appears Stewart will fly solo as the primary lantern of Sector 2814 whenever his first real live-action adventure reaches an undetermined start date. Yes, I guess from Hal Jordan and Green Lantern Corps. Berlanti is still involved, but Irvine and Ritrock are no longer committed contractually. The budget, meanwhile, once touted as the most expensive in DC history, is going to be a lot lower now, say the Hollywood Reporter sources. There we go with that one. So we do have one more article to go through here. All right, so wow, there are members of the Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Yeah, those like that don't look too appetizing to me. Cartoon Network merging operations with Warner Brothers Animation as part of quote-unquote strategic realignment. Article by J.D. Augustine published yesterday. Let's see. Cartoon Network is going to change big time under the Warner Brothers Discovery banner. And the basic cable channel animation studio responsible for decades of renowned original programs could cease to exist as we knew it. Yeah, well, I can even tell you from my experience, I've been seeing a lot of this inconsistency too, because I know Toonami looks like they've cut an hour back. They were doing 4 hours, but now starting this past weekend they cut back down to 3. They're not really doing a whole lot of newer animation, newer animes. They're doing more original stuff from like Crunchyroll Studios and all that. So they're not like, the only things they're still, of course, they're still doing Inuyasha. They're still doing Made in Abyss. Right now, most of the stuff that's on there is either out of LA or out of Dallas, basically. Anyways, Discovery. Okay. Oh, okay. And here's a shot from a Johnny Bravo season 1, episode 3. the sensitive male, Bravo Doobie Doo, from Bravo Doobie Doo, in which Johnny Johnny met up with the Scooby Doo gang, and of course, he and as you, if any of you have seen even a little bit, Johnny wants to get with Daphne, and Velma wants to get with him. So, according to an internal memo obtained and covered by Variety and Cartoon Brew, CN Studios will fold into one entity with Warner Brothers Animation as part of a strategic realignment, quote unquote. Said realignment resulted in a string of new layoffs of 82 scripted, unscripted, and animation employees of Warner Brothers Television Group last month. Well, they're consolidating. They're consolidating all the departments into like one department. They're having like 3 separate departments that are essentially doing a lot of the same things. You may have one department, producing and developing, 2 or 3 of one 2 or 3 shows. You might have another department doing another 2 or 3 shows. And you have another department doing another 2 or 3 shows. So just figure, hey, might as well just put it all under one roof, right? All right. So, anyways, getting ready to continue on with the article here. All right. So let's see. Oh yeah. Last month. Additionally, 43 open positions will not be filled, and all told, 26% of the Warner Brothers television workforce has been slashed, which we knew that. This was being talked about like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I know Yellow Flash was talking about. A number of people were talking about this. And Last Laughs, I think, continued efforts to make Warner Brothers Discovery more cost efficient. Here's on The Amazing World of Gumball, Season 3, Episode 29, The Saint, from 2014. Let's see. Regardless, the memo states that CNS, WBA, so Cartoon Network Studios, Warner Brothers Animation, Hanna-Barbera Europe will continue on as labels, but the former 2 will lose their autonomy. Development and production at Warner Brothers Animation, let's see, the former 2, which means Cartoon Network Studios and Warner Brothers. Hanna-Barbera Europe holding on to their autonomy does make some amount of sense because they're over in Europe. So, but the other 2 here, production at Warner Brothers Animation Cartoon will be combined, costing Cartoon Network a say in creative and operations it enjoyed until now. Cartoon Brew sees this as a bad omen for Cartoon Network's output and legacy of original content that took off in earnest after the success of Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Here's an episode of that from Season 6, Episode 7. Fire Ant. Quote, Warner Brothers Animation has traditionally been a much more catalog IP-driven studio. Which means, I guess, taking advantage of certain licenses, IP licenses. While Cartoon Network Studios has been the studio that puts out original series and specials that occasionally become touchstones for generations of viewers. Namely, as we saw, Johnny Bravo, Powerpuff Girls, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Grim and Evil, the Grim Adventures of, Grim and Evil, the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Dexter's Laboratory, Codename Kids Next Door, all of those. Let's see. They cite examples of the last decade, including Uncle Grandpa, Steven Universe, Clarence, and Over the Garden Wall. But we'd be remiss not to go further and acknowledge Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I thought that was more William Street, but Johnny Bravo, Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, and Robot Chicken. Here are the Powerpuff Girls. Season 1, Episode 1, Monkey See, Doggy Doo, Mommy Theorist. Anybody come in yet? Let's see. Anybody else? All right. So, anyways, let's see. On the Warner Prime side, you have an IP-based catalog that boasts DC selections like Batwheels, Aquaman King of Atlantis, Teen Titans Go, Harley Quinn, and Justice League Action, which are middling at best. Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav openly leans more toward established IPs under his leadership. There will be a greater focus on the likes of Superman and Batman, which he views as underutilized. Well, let's just hope that with him in charge, they will also, go back to more traditional views and not do a lot of the woke stuff that they've been doing in the comics of late. Aquaman King of Atlantis Season 1, Episode 1, Season 1, Chapter 1, Dead Serpent. Okay, that's even a little bright for what it was. Wow. CB posts, quote, "It's difficult to imagine a future in which the studio's original animation output can match what it has been in the past. As long as Zaslav is king, Cartoon Network Studios is likely to shift more strongly towards reboots of its existing catalog, as it is currently doing with the Powerpuff Girls, then launching new IP. Insiders see this on the horizon too. Former general manager of Cartoon Network Studios and 21-year figurehead Brian Miller tweeted an epitaph for his old company with a quote from Variety's article referring to the tri-customary of quote-unquote labels mentioned above. A trichotomy, rather. All right, so that's all we got for the main articles tonight. We're just past an hour mark, so we got some time. So we might head over to CBR to try to take a quick look around, see what we can find there. All right. So, anyways, but before I do that, I'm going to need to step away from the computer again. I'll be right back. Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, all right. So now, as I said, we going over to CDR to see what we might be able to find there. So got more or less than me. Got some time still to go, and um, yeah, we'll see a look at CDRs. Let's see what we can find as well here. Uh, Steve the Winter Soldier, Brandon. All right, that's a possible spoiler. Superman just defeated one in the most. Okay, another. Alan Moore, you okay? We reported on this. We reported on this the other day, of course. Um, British artist Kevin O'Neill passed away the other day at the age of 69. So this article is a bit of a follow up. Let's see what it has to say here. Alan Moore eulogizes his friend and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen co-creator Kevin O'Neill. Alan Moore posted a moving tribute to his friend and the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen co-creator Kevin O'Neill, who passed away at the age of 69. Article by Brendan Schwer, published 9 hours ago. I guess there's Moore and O'Neill right there together. Alan Moore, who co-created the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen with Kevin O'Neill, posted in moving tribute to his friend, how O'Neill passed away at the age of 69. Moore posted a photo of Kevin O'Neill and himself on Facebook with a caption. Okay, I think that should say caption, but somebody did a little spelling error here. With a captain. Okay, but I think that should be caption. That reads, quote, Kevin O'Neill, 1953 to 2022. Thus is the course of Fable's river run to flood with jewels the delta of its end. Here is the summit peak, and let's pretend now is the story of all stories done. And we hail our imaginary friends before before the curtain of the stars descends. Unquote. Oh, there we go, right there. Kevin O'Neill and Alan Moore's collaborations. O'Neill was born on August 22nd, 1953. He began his career in comics working on titles such as 2000 AD and Judge Dredd at International Publishing Company, IPC. O'Neill first collaborated with Moore on a backup story in the Omega Men before they then worked on 1986's Green Lantern Corps Annual, an issue printed without the Comics Code Authority stamp. Quote, I was working on an Alan Moore story, unquote. O'Neill previously said, quote, the CCA objected not to the actual story, but to the style that it was drawn in. Basically, we did talk a little bit about that the other day when we were covering the article about O'Neill's passing. Let's see. I had aliens being crucified and stuff like, yeah. And as I mentioned the other day when they mentioned that too, yeah, you would have had a lot of Christian groups up in arms over that. You would have had a lot of Christian groups probably up in arms over that, especially back in the 80s there. Let's see. My editor asked if we could run it with a code sticker if we toned down the crucifixion. They said there was nothing they could do to the artwork that would help. I love that. I love the idea that these old grannies were sitting in an office in New York poring over every comic page. It was 1950s. Unquote. Oh boy. More created America's Best Comics, an imprint of Wildstorm Studios. In 1999, Moore and O'Neill for the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, shortly after America's Best Comics launched. Set in Victorian England, the original series saw characters such as Captain Nemo, Dr. Jekyll, Invisible Man, and more embark on an adventure involving Professor James Moriarty and Fu Manchu. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen lasted for 4 volumes and further expanded into a graphic novel and spin-off trilogy. 2003, the title was adapted into a feature film, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Directed by Stephen Norrington and starring Sean Connery, O'Neill and Moore then later worked together on Cinema Purgatorio, a comic anthology series published by Avatar. So it sounds like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, what they basically did there is they made kind of their own like Victorian style Justice League, it seems like. Just without any real super powers. Oh, anyways. We have a visitor. See what he has to ask you. What's your favorite Napoleon Dynamite? Don't have one. Don't even really follow that. Did you watch you? Yeah, I've seen a number of the Yu-Gi-Oh series before. Pretty interesting show there. Anyways, see what else can we find here. Spider-Verse introduces a new beta reality. Okay, that's a potential spoiler. Okay, we kind of knew this one was coming too. Legendary artist Carlos Pacheco has passed away at age 60. We kind of knew this one was coming because I recently maybe a couple months back did do a story on this. He had, I guess, been diagnosed with some form of cancer. So let's review here. Carlos Pacheco, a legendary comic book artist who worked on numerous titles at both DC and Marvel, passed away on November 9th at the age of 6. So that's today. He passed away today. So they really did 7 hours ago. He must have passed away like this morning or something like that. Oh, yeah. Oh, they posted this at noon my time here. Article by Jeremy Plum. Let's see. Now, I'm not completely sure, but I think he did a lot of work on the Spanish versions of a lot of their comics. Comics that were being distributed in like south of the border and in South America and all that. think. Comic artist Carlos Pacheco died on November 9th, a little over a month after the iconic illustrator announced that he had been diagnosed with the neurological disease ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. ALS, which of course is more commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease, because Lou Gehrig was one of the first well-known people to actually have been diagnosed with it. I know Catfish Hunter, another baseball player. Of course, for those of you who don't know, Lou Gehrig, the Iron Horse, former Yankees first baseman, diagnosed with that disease back in the 30s. Years later, of course, Catfish Hunter had been diagnosed with it. I think he may have passed away from it a few years ago as well. Catfish Hunter, the former pitcher for the Oakland Athletics and New York Yankees as well. So, born on November 14th, so just 5 days shy of his 61st birthday. He was 60 years old. Let's see. Pacheco's comic career includes work for both DC and Marvel and illustrations of a wide variety of superheroes from the Justice Society to Starjammers. Pacheco's work began in Spanish language editions of Marvel's books, published under the Comics Form imprint at Planeta de Agostino. And in 1993, he illustrated Dark Guard, the first Marvel series to feature him as the sole penciler. Pacheco would go on to work on The Flash over at DC, and his career blossomed, eventually leading to gigs on Avengers Forever, Inhumans, JLA JSA, Virtue and Vice, and Superman Batman. He also lent his pencils to mega events at both companies, including 2009's Final Crisis at DC and 2013's Age of Ultron at Marvel. Earlier this year, Pacheco announced he would be taking a sabbatical from comics to deal with health issues. He wrote at the time, quote, "As some of you probably know, I suffered a paralysis of my right leg this past September. Since then, I've been visiting neurologists trying to know what the heck was happening. After receiving the worst diagnosis possible, they finally have discovered the root of that is a compression of the nerves that go from the L5 to the legs, basically meaning condensing or shrinking of the nerves, basically. And a little, to the legs, and a little and hard to see fracture in that vertebra. So I will go to a hard dorsal spine surgery next Sunday morning. Doctors say that I will need to suffer a rehab that will last between 8 and 12 months. That was the reason why I couldn't finish my commitment with Fantastic Four, and now I'll be out of order during all this year after the surgery. Don't forget me, please. I'll be back. Hope so." In September, Pacheco revealed that he had been diagnosed with ALS, which is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, which I had talked about earlier. Pacheco's announcement, originally posted on Facebook and since deleted, was translated from Spanish by CBR's Diane Darcy. It reads, quote, well, it cannot be. The final diagnosis has made it clear amyotrophic trophic lateral sclerosis, Lou Gehrig's disease, aka ALS. It is what it is, and it is what needs to be dealt with. It's time that this is an unexpected turn of events in my life. But this doesn't make me feel less fortunate to have lived the life I have lived. For the experiences I've had, the achievements I've made, and the people I've been fortunate to cross paths with. In truth, it's been a life that's gone beyond my wildest childhood dreams. Thank you to everyone who has been here. Let's keep going as always. And as I said, I did report on this when it was going down. I know they had articles on here before about it too. On September 28th, Pacheco tweeted his final work in comics, a cover for Damage Control number 2, showing a shrunken Ant-Man and Wasp running across a burrito away from the mouth of Gus, the comedy series' unassuming protagonist. The cover was inked by Rafael Fonteres and colored by Rochelle Rosenberg. Marvel Comics posted a tweet memorializing Pacheco on November 9th. It reads, quote, we mourn the loss of a dear part of Marvel family, comics artist and writer Carlos Pacheco. His legacy of iconic designs and storytelling like Avengers Forever, Fantastic Four, X-Men, Excalibur, Captain America, and more will be remembered. Our thoughts are with his loved ones. All right, well, we just had, and not to put an even more morbid and macabre spin on it as well, but they say things happen in threes. So we just had Kevin O'Neill pass away the other day. Carlos Pacheco passed away earlier today. Now you have to kind of wonder if another comic book creator is due to pass in the near future here. Again, not trying to put a real morbid or macabre spin on it, but they do say things happen in threes. So, but we should all probably send our thoughts and prayers out to the Pacheco family as they mourn the loss, as well as the O'Neill family. So let's see where we're at on time here. Okay. All right, we're a lot closer there. Alrighty then. So with that, let's see now. Let's at least finish off the comics section here, and then let's see what we'll do. And some plot points here. Some spoilers, yeah, and we don't do spoilers. Alright, so go through TV news then. Actually, I'm gonna step away for a moment to go use the restroom. I'll be right back. Put the music on for you guys. And I'm back. Let's see where we We're already past the hour and a half mark then. Right, so let's see what we can find here. Yeah. Right, so it looks like we do have at least one article. Let's go through here a little bit. All right. Inside Job Part 2 trailer sees Reagan fight a John Wick lookalike. Netflix releases an official trailer for Inside Job Part 2, which is slated to premiere on the streaming platform later this month. Article by Noah Dominguez, published 22 hours ago. Netflix has released an official trailer for the next installment of the adult animated series Inside Job. The trailer for Inside Job Part 2 offers a glimpse at what the Netflix series' next batch of episodes has in store for Cognito Inc. Engineer Reagan Ridley, voiced by Lizzie Kaplan, including her continued rivalry with her father, Randall Rand Ridley, voiced by Christian Slater, an apparent romance with newcomer Ron Sadler, voiced by Adam Scott, a member of the Illuminati, and even a sword fight with a man who looks a lot like Keanu Reeves' John Wick. Rand took over the world. Reagan is rightfully pissed, and Gigi's um, all over up on our grill about this new guy named Ron Stadler, played by Adam Scott. Like, come on, give a girl a break. Consisting of 10 new episodes, Inside Job Part 2 is slated to premiere on Netflix on Friday, November 18th. So, a week from this Friday, in fact. Quote, Rand, Reagan's father, is back in control of Cognito Inc., totally messing everything up, and Reagan is ready to kick some bleeping rear end. An official logline for the new batch of episodes reads, quote, if only this annoying deal with Ron Stadler, the mind erasing genius for the Illuminati, would stop getting in the way, unquote. Inside Job returns to Netflix in November. Created by Shion Takuchi of Gravity Falls and Disenchantment, Inside Job premiered its first batch of 10 episodes on Netflix on October 22nd, 2021. For employees, quote, for employees of the deep state conspiracies aren't just theories. They're fact. Keeping them secret is a full-time job, unquote. The show's overall logline reads, the specific logline for part 1 continues, lizard people? Real? The moon landing? Fake? Managing the world's conspiracies is a full-time job for an awkward genius, Reagan, and her dysfunctional co-workers, unquote. Thus far, Inside Job has proven to be a hit with critics and audiences alike. On Rotten Tomatoes, the adult animated series currently holds an approval rating of 79% from critics as well as an audience score of 90%. Meanwhile, on IMDb, the show holds a weighing average 7.6 out of 10 based on user reviews. Furthermore, during the first week on Netflix, the show racked up over 21 million viewership hours worldwide. In addition to the upcoming Part 2, Inside Job has been renewed for a full second season. Inside Job Part 2 premieres November 18th on Netflix. So there we go with that one. Let's see now. Creed. Hey, Rick. Thanks for popping in, man. Hope you enjoy what little content we have left here for tonight. I've already gone through the main articles I'm going to go through. Anyways, anyways, always, if anything grabs your attention, of course, feel free to comment or ask, and ask any questions. If I can, I'll try to answer the questions as best I can. We just ended on Chris's. Yeah, I was gonna try to pop in there for a minute, but you guys got started so late, I had to get over to start my show. Ah, so, and I'm kind of more toward the end now. I'm just kind of just trying to stretch out the time a little bit here. And of course, I got you on Friday, of course, for the historical comic book bit. So um, need the link that morning. Anyways, let's see what else we can find here on the TV animation side of things here. And I'm just looking for animated series, of course. Okay, Daredevil. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, I think let's see. We're at hour 41 here, so I think we're done with articles. Probably start getting into the wrestling wrap up here. Getting into the wrestling wrap up here. Actually, before I do that, of course, I just reported on something earlier. I don't know if you would have known these names, Rick, but Kevin O'Neill, co-creator of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen with Alan Moore and Carlos Pacheco, passed away. Carlos Pacheco passed away earlier today, and then I think um, Kevin O'Neill passed away a couple. Don't know if you know those guys at all, but you have to almost kind of wonder because they say things happen in three. Not I'm trying to put a morbid or macabre spin on anything here, but they say things happen in threes. You have two of these guys who just passed away within a matter of days of each other. And Pacheco died from complications of having ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, which was diagnosed a couple months ago. So, yeah, so we have to wonder if there's going to be another um, legendary comic book creator that's going to pass on soon. Just the way things are. Oh, actually, you did have some. Unfortunately, don't know the names, but definitely sad to hear. Yeah. All right. So yeah. So just obviously a couple things, there to pass on there. Um, I did also do an article earlier. Chuck Dixon talked about what it's like, being blacklisted and trying to maintain your friendship with those who may have the opposing political viewpoint. So he had some interesting things to say about it. Article that I did earlier. Anyway, so now let's get do some wrestling wrap up here. So WWE now that they just got through with Crown Jewel this past Sunday or past Saturday. Now they're preparing for Survivor Series. Now this year's Survivor Series is a little different because they're gonna actually, as part of the main program, main WWE product, they're gonna introduce the War Games match at this year's Survivor Series. Now previously it was used in NXT, it wasn't used in the main WWE programming, but they're gonna introduce it this year. They just haven't announced any participants. Now I don't you probably for those who don't know what War Games is, right. You're getting used to my bad spelling. Awesome. Well, yeah, I know a lot of people. They just, you know, I don't know if it's bad spelling or just maybe they're just not getting all the right keys or what have you. But it could be typos or whatever. But I just, I can let it go. And well, it depends. I mean, I will critique it on articles, obviously, if I catch it in articles. So, but anyway, back to what I was talking about here. So this year, WWE is going to introduce the War Games match into one of the main pay-per-views, Survivor Series. Now, for those who don't know what War Games are, War Games is a match that originated back in the '80s in Jim Crockett promotion. I think it was one of late Dusty Rhodes' ideas that he pitched to him, along with like the Funkhouse Stampede and all that. So the idea of War Games was you have two teams of five ultimately end up in a cage. Now, what you do is you start out with one member of each team going in there and starting off. You flip a coin to find out who gets the advantage, and then at certain intervals, you send another member of the team, in the cage. So you got team A, team B. So you have the first member of team A, team B start off. Then depending on who wins, let's say team A won the coin toss, so they get the advantage. So at whatever, I don't know if it's every 2 minutes or 5 minutes. I don't remember exact time, but at each time interval that they declare, one member from each team alternates going in. So if Team A, let's say, has the advantage, and Team A has the second member of Team A goes in. You got 2-on-1 there from Team A going on Team B, and then at the next interval, the second member of Team B goes in. Now you have even again, and then at the next interval, the third member, and so on and so forth. Once you have all five members of the team inside the cage for both teams, then that's when you can win the match. Now, in this particular case, they're inside of a cage, so there's only two ways to win a War Games match. Get one of your opponents to submit or surrender. No pinfalls, obviously no counters because they're inside of the cage. No escaping the cage. You just basically beat your opponent down until they submit or surrender. So that's War Games. That's what WWE is bringing back at this year's Survivor Series. How they're going to incorporate that with the traditional Survivor Series, and scenario of the elimination tag elimination style matches. Don't know yet. But that'll probably be interesting for a lot of fans to see. Um, Also, it looks like after his loss to Brock Lesnar at Crown Jewel, they may be going back to turn Bobby Lashley heel again because they're hinting at the idea of bringing back the stable he had before, known as the Hurt Business, with him, Shelton Benjamin, and Cedric Alexander. So they may be bringing them back. Let's see. And that's at least a lot of the WWE news going on right now. The AEW side of it, of course, tonight on tonight's Dynamite, you have a number of matches going on, including, I guess, in the main event, in a best in a 2 out of 3 falls match of Bryan Danielson taking on Sammy Guevara. You have Jamie in a women's match, Jamie Hayter taking on Sky Blue, in kind of a follow up to a match they had as part of a follow up to a tag match they had on this past Friday's Rampage. Also, these are two kind of up and coming stars in the world. Well, Hayter's got, of course, a shot at the interim women's world title at Full Gear a week from this Saturday. And Sky Blue has been on the rise of late as well. And then, of course, in another, you got John Moxley interference. You have a face-to-face between Ray and Dr. Britt Baker. Opening off the show was supposed to be an 8-man tag match between AEW World Tag Team Champions and Acclaimed teaming with Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions FTR, taking on their respective number one challengers and potential opponents at well, we already know that Swerve in Our Glory will be challenging the Acclaimed at Full Gear. They'll be teaming up with a gun to take on the performance people that I just talked. So that's what's going on. A lot of this is setting up for next Saturday's Full Gear. Also, it was recently announced that MJF, who is currently set to challenge Jon Moxley for the AEW World Title, recently got his first movie role. Recently, it was stated that I guess it's a biopic about the Von Erich family. Most wrestling fans, particularly wrestling fans in the Southwest, particularly in Texas, know much about the Von Erich. Some of us who grew up watching WWF probably remember Kerry Von Erich from the time he was in the WWF with the Texas Tornado. For those who watched World Class and AWA reruns and USWA reruns on ESPN and independent channels. Probably not a lot of that. So, anyways, it's probably a good time to start winding down a little bit, as we're of course going to now we're going to get to the part of the show I like to call it the This Day Meets History segment, in which we're going to, of course, look back at this day meets history. Today being Wednesday, November 9th, 2022. Why don't we go ahead and take a look back this day meets history. History! And this day, there are some interesting little tidbits here from today, particularly in the wrestling world. Anyways, first off, I'd actually like to wish a happy birthday to a particular individual. I'd like to wish a happy birthday to Robert David Hall, an actor and voice actor. Let's see. For some fans, they probably know him for his role as the coroner, Dr. Albert Robbins, on CSI Crime Scene Investigation. But for those of us who watched cartoons, particularly back in the 80s, he had a couple of pretty well noted roles. He provided the voice of Dinky Little and Mr. Big in The Littles back in the mid 80s. He also provided the voice of Colonel Sharp in the G.I. Joe Real American Series franchise. He was also Mr. Modern Life Goes On, but basically, so happy 75th birthday to Robert David Sharp, who of course voiced Colonel Sharp in G.I. Joe, as well as Dinky Little Mr. Big in The Littles. We are the Littles. Everyone to and fro. Here come the Littles. Everything you know. Anyways, happy 75th birthday to Mr. Paul there. Now getting ready to move on to the next piece of news history here. We head back 50 years ago today, and on this day, 50 years ago today, the 50th issue, kind of an interesting tidbit here. 50 years ago today, the 50th issue of Korak, Son of Tarzan, went on sale on newsstands from DC Comics for 20 cents with a 32-page. It was a bi-monthly title. Joe Kubert did the editing. Now, this series is interesting because the series started out as a property of Western Publishing, also known as Dell Comics. The first 45 issues of this book were published by Dell Comics / Western Publishing. And starting with issue 46 for the remainder of its run, eventually, I think it went up to 60 issues. And at some point, DC would change the title from Korak, Son of Tarzan to the Tarzan family. But on this date, 50 years ago, the 50th issue of Korak, Son of Tarzan went on sale on this date. Oh, there we go with that one. Interesting. 50th anniversary of the 50th issue of a book. That's kind of interesting. All right. So, anyways, moving on to the next piece of niche history here. And this is considered, particularly by many WWF fans, this is considered somewhat of a dark day in wrestling history. As on this date back in 1997, from the Molson Center, I believe, in Montreal, Molson Center in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, the Survivor Series happened. Now, this was the Survivor Series, the very infamous one that became known as the Montreal Screwjob. This was the one in which Shawn Michaels defeated Bret the Hitman Hart for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. This is the one where Vince ultimately screwed Bret out of the title. You know, this what the story going in was Bret's contract was about to come up with the WWE. He was getting ready to leave the company. He had signed with. He was going to be signing with He had signed with WCW. You know, but at the time he was still the WWF champion, and he had said that he would he did not want to lose. He did not want to lose in Canada. That's all he had. He did not want to lose. He had offered Vince, he'd be willing to surrender the title on the following night's Raw. But that apparently wasn't good enough, and Vince ended up throwing Bret out of the title. So now, aside from that, some of the other matches, of course, going on included Stone Cold defeating Stone Cold Steve Austin defeating Owen Hart for the Intercontinental Championship. some Kane defeating Mankind, and I guess in some of the Survivor Series matches, um, on the Survivor Series matches included the Road Warriors, Ahmed Johnson and Ken Shamrock defeating the members of the Nation of Domination, which were, of course, a younger Rock, Farouk, Colin Machado, and D'Lo Brown. Team Canada, comprised of the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, Jim Neidhart, Doug Furness, and Phil LaFon. Funny thing is, I don't know if you would call it funny, but interesting little note there. Three of the four members of that team have passed on. Of course, I think everybody remembers when British Bulldog passed away, back I think in late '90s, early 2000s. Jim Neidhart passed away a few years ago, and Doug Furness passed away back in 2012. So, Team Canada defeated Team USA, comprised of Vader, Goldust, Mark Mero, and Steve Blackman with Sable in their corner. The Truth Commission defeated the Disciples of Apocalypse. The commission comprised of the Jackal, the Interrogator, Sniper, and Recon. In the Crush, aka Brian Adams, Chains and 8 Ball, the Harris brothers, or no, 8 Ball and Skull were probably the Chains, 8 Ball, and Skull were all three of them were these are the same town. You had Brian Lee and Harris brothers. I think they were all cousins. And then the New Age Outlaws teaming with the Godwins to be the Headbangers and the New Black. So that happened all on this date 25 years ago, the Montreal Screw Job. Um, let's see. All right. All right. We're getting ready to move on to the final piece of each history here. All right. So we have one more piece in each history to get to here. Okay, so on this date, 2012, 10 years ago today, on this date, 10 years ago today, the 5th stage of Initial D premiered on Japanese television. Synergy SP's initial 5th stage, initial D 5th stage, premiered on Japanese TV on this date back in 2012. Initial D was an anime series about drift racing. Yeah, a lot. You basically race on a hilly road in which you what they call drift. In other words, a lot of braking is involved, where you basically turn your wheels and you kind of like drift. You know, you put your car to the side almost, and you can drift along. So on this date, 10 years ago today, Synergy SP Initial D 5th stage premiered on Japanese TV. So, anyways, that's all we have for you tonight, guys. And thank you all for being here tonight. We'll be back, of course, tomorrow with more niche news coverage. Also, don't forget this Friday, Rick Piper will be joining me as we will be looking back to comics history, looking back to June of 1939. We'll be focusing in on books that went on sale from Fox feature publications. We'll be really digging deep into Mystery Men Comics #1. And of course, we'll be also reading from Wonderworld Comics, The Flame. So with that, I thank everybody for being here. And I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.